Okay, good afternoon to everyone. Warm welcome to everyone who is joining us today for our next IDMonSite live session. Today we have the pleasure to welcome Professor Maurizio Fermeglia. Professor Fermeglia is full professor at and former rector of the University of Trieste. And today we are going to discuss EuroScience Open Forum 2020, which is going to take or is taking place in Trieste. And I would like to start with the very first question. Maurizio, could you tell us more about this EuroScience Open Forum 2020? What is the purpose of this forum? What does this forum contribute to? Who is participating in this forum? What is this forum about?
Yes, Daniel. First of all, let me thank you very much, you and IDM, for the nice invitation and the possibility that you're giving me to present this event that is going to be the event of this decade in Trieste. Ladies and gentlemen, really thank you very much for listening to us and to be part of this virtual forum. Of course, I rather prefer the real forum, but we live in a moment that this is necessary and also, I would say, helpful. But let's get back to the question and to the point. As you know, ESOF is an acronym that stands for EuroScience Open Forum in Trieste. I was a rector of the University of Trieste. Somebody said you've been lucky to step down right before COVID, and actually I would say yes, I was very lucky not to be involved in the management of this situation. But EuroScience was born several years ago when Trieste decided to participate to the competition that brought actually ESOF in Trieste. Trieste, the ESOF was originally planned in these days, in July, but due to the pandemic, the event was postponed and moved to the beginning of September. I'm part of the program committee, so we worked very hard in preparing a nice program for a live event. And all of a sudden we had to change everything, revise completely, change many of the events and items because of almost impossibility of getting the speakers, or very uncertainty in getting the speakers in Trieste. But now, last few months of, I can call it a generalized anxiety and uncertainty, because this is actually what we suffer in the last months, have added even more profound motivation for ESOF. ESOF is an open forum for science and is thought for exchanging ideas and debate among scientists, among media communicators, involving society, involving the persons. And this is particularly interesting and necessary nowadays, because probably we will get back to this point later on today. But what is happening in, let's say, science communication and how science is trusted, it is crucial it has been crucial for the fight against the virus, which is not finished yet, but it will be crucial also for many other let's say, issues that we are suffering today, and then we will probably meet, hopefully not, but tomorrow. All this anti-science is something that is disturbing scientists like we are. But getting back to ESOF, as I said, it has been moved to the beginning of September. there will be fewer speakers who will be physically present with respect to the one previously planned. The location is the same, so I really invite, if the borders will be open, invite all the friends in the Danube region, let's go this way, to pop up in Trieste in those days, if the borders will be open, and if virus, this small, teeny little thing will leave us in peace. But nonetheless, we will have more than 150 events. Most of them will be so-called hybrids. That means that some of the speakers will be present in Trieste, and some will join the event remotely. But the event will be broadcasted all over the world, I would say. I mean, for anyone who's going to be interested in that. 70, almost half of these events will be virtual, totally virtual, with nobody physically present in Trieste, and only a few of them, I would say 15, will be only physically in Trieste without broadcast. So this is actually what we expect. We believe that the challenge of ESOF 2020 that will probably remain in the history of ESOF as a very peculiar and specific edition of this is the real, as I said, the urgency to address everything that has happened over the last few months. That's the reason why we completely revisited the program. And I'm particularly convinced that more than ever before, the scientific community, the global scientific community, must demonstrate that it's up to the challenge that waits us, including new ways to circulating ideas. Probably a scientist, let's say, did something wrong in the last, or at least in Italy, this is so. I mean, I'm following the politics in Italy, and this is a terrible situation because, I mean, science is not given the right importance that science has had. Science never gives the total truth. Science said, this is possible, this may happen, these are the data. We scientists discuss, we publish our paper, we have reviewers that reads our paper. So if we say something, of course, it's not 100% true, but it is checked and double checked by expert people. In these days, unfortunately, I have heard many pseudoscientists stating sentences and concepts which were totally biased and totally wrong without any scientific support. And then what happened? If a scientist said, hey, look, but have you checked that? Oh, no, but, well, I know. I have experience and I know, but this is not the way science works. So it's very much important that ESOF will tackle this issue. As I said, we are going to have a hybrid format that probably will stay and remain also in the next editions of ESOF. Virtual communication, everything is ready to go. So this is in general for ESOF. I said already that we revised the program entirely, I would say. And I can anticipate something, but the program is available. The final program, almost final program, is available on the website of ESOF. You Google ESOF 2020 and you get it very easily. Of course, we introduced a completely new session, COVID, the SARS-CoV-19. And the world of very famous toxicologist from Johns Hopkins University, Thomas Hartung, will discuss on the impact of SARS infection on your brain, which is sometimes a little bit forgotten. And then we will have also in the same session, Richard Horton, editor-in-chief of The Lancet, that will explain why the global response to COVID has been so bad. So you see, again, science that pays a lot of attention to the so-called outreach and communication, because this is actually a weak point. We realize the weak point of science. Then it's, again, the interweaving of the production of knowledge and public information that will be discussed by Sudeep Parkik, which is a CEO of the American Association for the Advancement in Science. Again, you see the same trend. These are just gave you the most relevant thing and the most relevant talks that will be given in this particular session. Of course, ESOF retained the general structure that was planned already 2 years ago, that is divided into 3 main domains. Science program, which is dedicated to frontier research and implication to society. The science to business program, which is focusing on the relationship between science and the business world, with impacts on the society as well, but more directly related to the business. And the science to careers program, which is another very important thing. I will perhaps, if I have time, cover this issue later on. Is the change in the revolution that digitalization, for example, but not only, is giving to the jobs of the future. Let's say, create some thinking in us that we have to organize the curricula for the young people that are following our courses at the university. So science to careers, it's really focusing on this, and I'm very, very glad that this part was introduced in the in ESOF. Other important things that will be discussed at ESOF, either virtually or physically, is the climate changes and transition to green economy and renewable energies. We are very happy and lucky to have in Trieste at ICTP, which is the International Center for Theoretical Physics, one of the most expert climatologists in the world is Filippo Giorgi. He worked, and he's still working with the IPCC, which is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And he, together with other people that worked at IPCC, received the Nobel Prize with Al Gore, if you remember, some years ago, for the correct, let's say, reason for correct communication of science regarding the climate change. Another important topic will be the impact of supercomputers and artificial intelligence on everything, pharmacology, but also natural products, but also process and product design, and, as I said before, the impact of this on the careers, on the jobs. And last but surely not least, especially because of the particular location of Trieste, will be a session dedicated to science diplomacy. We still have to remember when the Iron Curtain was on, the very many international centers, scientific international centers located in Trieste, worked a lot in trying to get, let's say, contacts with scientists in Eastern Europe. And the same thing has been done with scientists in Iran recently. Science has no border. I mean, we have learned this since the medieval time, that scientists, architects, doctors, they were just traveling in Europe freely and discussing science. And this actually is something that is peculiar of Trieste. This Central European town that is located in Italy, but it's right in the center of Europe. I'm glad to say this. So again, all of you are most welcome to come to Trieste for ESOF and even not. So science diplomacy will be, and we will certainly touch the point of large-scale infrastructures where different scientists from different nations work together, such as in Geneva, the CERN, but also Sesame. Sesame is an accelerator in Jordan, located there, and believe it or not, but Iranian people, together with the Israeli people, together with Egyptian scientists, are just working together. It's a small step, but it is a step. What else? Well, few participants. We're going to have, of course, some Italians. Lifetime Senator Elena Cattaneo. She's very known for her research on the Huntington diseases and stem cells. Fabiola Giannotti, she is the Director General of CERN. It's not a case that we just have two women here representing the really important contribution of women in science, which in most cases is even higher than the contribution of men. We will have the German climatologist, Gerald Haug. He will debate with Filippo Giorgi on climate changes, of course. The founder of Italian Institute of Technology in Genoa, Roberto Cingolani, then Harvard professors. This will be nice to meet again a person that I met several times. That's the Jean-Pierre Bourguignon, and he was the head of the European Research Council since last year. So many interesting persons that will talk lively or live, I would say, or remotely, but most of them will be present in Trieste. I don't know, well, I hope I gave you general overview of what is going to happen in those days in the old port of Trieste, which is a port created and built by Maria Teresa of Austria. But that's not the only thing that will happen in Trieste with respect to ESOF. We also have a Science in the City festival that will not be in English, that will be mostly in Italian or with some direct translation. And that is made specifically for people living in the area. People living in Trieste, but also Slovenia and Croatia. You have to remember that Rijeka is the European Capital of Culture in 2020. They are suffering, of course, as well as we are suffering from the pandemic effects. But this is specifically devoted to raise the consciousness of science into the citizens. So it's 26 exhibitions and almost 200 shows. And this festival started already 2 days ago and will last until the end of September. Again, if you are planning a visit to Trieste, double check the program of Science in the City. And myself, I will surely have a panel on climate changes together with Filippo Giorgi and others, because we, on top of discussing this among scientists and let's say giving the scientific point of view on this, it's extremely important to raise consciousness in the people, the normal people, avoiding, let's say, the anti-science approach. Yeah, that's it, Daniel.
Yeah, thank you, Maurizio, for this general overview of the forum. I would like to ask you, I would like to stay with the topic of young researchers or young scientists, and with connection with the forum, because when I checked the website, I saw that there was, during the previous editions, there were some meetings of young researchers and, let's say, established scientists. I think everyone can understand this year that the physical presence in Trieste is drastically limited. But is there any possibility, any options for young scientists to meet these established scientists? Even
yeah, Daniel, it is in the program. We worked a lot on this. Of course, this is not, there's no real topic for this. That's just, some slots available in the program where young scientists will meet let's say, this big guys, let's put it in this way. Originally, when we first developed the first program, guess what? We devoted a very, very large hall in the conference center to coffee. Because, and this is an old statement that I said several times, if somebody asks me whether I prefer coffee machine or Skype, my answer is coffee machine forever. I mean, in front of a good coffee, and you know that in Trieste we do have good coffee, everything goes on nicely. But you can also add a glass of beer or a glass of wine. But anyway, I mean, after all, human beings are social human beings. And this is going to be very difficult to create now after COVID. But still, we have volunteers coming from all, let's say, most of the countries around here, Italy, but not only Italy, also Austria, Slovenia, Croatia, and perhaps also from other countries. Everything will depend whether the borders will be open or not. There's a lot of question marks, but still we have this, let's say, coffee with the expert, let's put it in this way, that will take place if the person will be there. If this will not be the case, we will organize a virtual coffee. I mean, so people present in Trieste will have the Illy coffee, and people present somewhere else will have another. But I really hope that this will, because I mean, as I said before, one of the targets of ESOF is young scientists and young generation. Especially because, I mean, if somebody's asking me what, after working so hard with the program of ESOF, what's the main expectation that you may have? Which are the most important topics that will remain after ESOF? I would say just two things: digitalization and decarbonization, because these are the two main effects of the science and technology on the society.
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm glad that you are mentioning that, because I also, when I was checking the website, I also read the United Nations Environment Program, where there is written that epidemics will become more frequent as the climate continues to change. The most fundamental way to protect ourselves from diseases is to prevent the destruction of nature. Where ecosystems are healthy and biodiverse, they are resilient, adaptable, and help to regulate diseases. So you already mentioned that we were not prepared for the COVID, although many scientists said that this is coming, but we are definitely not prepared for the climate change, for global warming, and it seems that humankind is not, let's say, willing to address the climate change until we are not directly confronted with it. How can this forum, or how can scientists contribute, or not only scientists, but also stakeholders, politicians, and so on, how all of them can contribute to raise awareness about the issue of climate change? climate change?
As I said, at this particular moment, it's extremely important to raise consciousness in the, let's say, regular people. And we should learn from what has happened with COVID. I may ask you a question. When I say we, I said all different, from the politicians down to the normal person, to the citizen. Were we prepared for COVID? No, we were not prepared. In the very first days and first weeks, even the higher society of health, they said, one day they said one thing, the day after they said another thing, mask yes and mask no, and no, you have to wear gloves, and after a week, no, gloves are dangerous, take away the gloves. I mean, wait a minute. The regular people should have very clear indication on how to tackle emergencies. And decision makers should have contingency plans written clearly. And this, at least in Italy, this is not the case. But it was not the case in Europe, my God. You have seen that every nation decided to, let's say, do what they thought that it could be better for the nation. But my God, virus is not traveling in Europe with a passport, I mean. And locking the borders, it's okay, it works. Probably it worked in several hundred years ago, but now we are global. And virus is global as well, as we are. So there's no surprise that the pandemic started in China and arrived here. How can you stop people traveling? Globalization is here. I'm not saying that globalization is the best situation, is very good or not, but it's here. So we have to deal with it. But yeah, but you're right. I mean, when you say that digital decarbonization, I would add also digitalization will impact very much in the future. I've been talking about this several times, normally when I start my talk, I said, look, you never listen to the scientists, you don't listen to the politicians, so perhaps you listen to the economist, because money is important. So if the economist is saying that one of the most important risks that we're going to face in the next 5 or 6 years is the problem of climate change, perhaps somebody should be aware of this. If I may share my screen, I can show you some nice pictures of this. May I?
Sure.
Okay, this is actually what I mentioned before. And this is the Global Risk Report. This is 2019, but there's already the new version 2020 available. As you see, risks are plotted in a y-axis in terms of likelihood. This is the possibility that the risk will happen. And in terms of impact, that's the impact of that risk. So what you see you have here is a weapon of mass destruction, which is a very high impact, but very hopefully low likelihood. And this area up here is the most crucial one. And you see that it's full of green dots: extreme weather events, failure of climate change in mitigation adaptation, natural disaster, biodiversity loss, man-made environmental disasters. And this is the editor, or the people that are issuing this, is World Economic Forum in Davos. So economists keep saying us that this is really an important issue. And you see up here, you have also water crisis and large-scale involuntary migration, all things that we know that are happening. So I really hope that this will indicate two directions for the future. And one is certainly decarbonization, and the other is digitalization. because we will have to deal with these two things. In this respect, getting back to the decarbonization, John Beddington is the UK scientist and is one of the member of the advisory board of the UK government. He said about 11 years ago, that we're gonna face a perfect storm, a rare combination of circumstances that will give rise to a phenomena of unusual magnitude. This is very similar to what happened to George Clooney in a movie. You remember, perhaps you remember the movie The Perfect Storm. And the context is that many issues are directly related to the areas of water, food, energy, security, prosperity, and equity. So world will face a perfect storm by 2030. This is actually what will happen. I don't want to go into details of the figures, but you can just, Google perfect storm, John Beddington, and you will see nice video of this. Global population will increase. We will get to 8.3 billion. Reduction of greenhouse gases, climate less than expectation will give climate changes more evident, and food, energy, and water shortage will lead to international tensions and migration. This is actually what already scientists said more than 10 years ago. Another issue which is important is that most people say that if we move to renewables, we will lose a lot of jobs. Again, scientists says, no. Jacobson published a nice article in which he said that job created by renewable energies will be 52 million and job lost will be less than 30 million. This is again not an issue, a real issue. So we have to work on this, and we have to work on digitalization too, which is well, are many things to be said here. What I like to say is that there is a convergence of technologies related to digitalization. We all know that nanotechnology, we think that nanotechnology is different from biotechnology, from ICT, from cognitive sciences, but this is not true. Because in the future, we will use atoms, bits, genes, and synapses as sort of Lego bricks to create our processes and our product. So this is going to happen. This is going to happen also with the Material Genome Initiative, MGI, where computational tools, experimental tools, and digital data will mix together. And another issue that we'll probably see very soon popping up is the so-called Internet of Nano Things, which is nano, let's say, application of the Internet of Things. Internet of Things is already here. And the Internet of Nano Things is a collection of very many information from the human beings, I would say, and transfer using 5G or 6G technology to the big data. And this will change radically and completely also the role of health, because what we can expect is that each of us will have a digital twin in a virtual hospital, just like normally it is happening today with engines, with complex machines. If I may say something that I promised to say already before, is all this will have an impact on the future of employment. And this, again, comes back to my mission. I am a professor, I'm a university professor. I was a rector for several years. This is an interesting, let's say, research that was done several years ago. Again, scientists that keep saying things since many years about the probability of massive reduction of occupation by 2030. And you see the telemarketers, accountants, retail salesperson will probably completely disappear or almost completely disappear while occupation based on, let's say, intelligence, based on competences will remain. Music directors, naval engineers, architects, clergy, athletic trainers and dentists. There is a lot of intellectual knowledge in this. So what can we learn from here is that the jobs that have something to do with the intermediacy, they will disappear. This is already existing. Taxi driver will disappear because there will be no need for taxi driver with the self-driving cars. And again, if people don't listen to us, should listen to the World Economic Forum. They say top emerging and top declining job landscape predicted for the 2022, and also growing and declining competences in 2022. What is really something news that had an enormous effect on me is that 65% of children entering primary school today will ultimately end up working in completely new jobs that don't exist yet. And this will happen in pretty soon. So the question is, are we prepared for this? Are we preparing our young generation for this kind of skills? Creativity, persuasion, collaboration, adaptability, time management. This is a so-called soft skills that it's not perfectly clear, at least not in Italy, that these are very relevant. Another, and this is my last comment on this, this is something that was presented some years ago at the TED 2018 by Kai-Fu Lee. Kai-Fu Lee is a scientist. I mean, he worked in Apple. And he said, looking at the occupation of the future, he said, well, we could classify occupation in terms of creativity and optimization. Optimization is here, creativity is here. So it's evident that anything that is related to culture, to music, there is a lot of creativity, and anything that is related with repeatable work or activity is here. But he said something very important. He said, this is not enough for describing the impact of artificial intelligence in the jobs. We should add another dimension, which is the compassion. Compassion has something to do with the interaction with other human beings. And this is actually what he ended up. He said, we have 4 quadrants. This quadrant is the realm of artificial intelligence because it's higher, very high optimization, no compassion. So this will be completely replaced by computers and digitalization. On the other hand, when we need creativity and compassion, this is where humans will have to demonstrate their capability. And this is completely different from what we have today. And then we have 2, let's say, gray zones. And this one where optimization is important, but also compassion is important. And this is a sort of core shell, let's say, structure where artificial intelligence is surrounded by humans. So humans become a sort of bridging element from the external, which is made by other humans, to the artificial intelligence. And this is actually a very gray zone. So to end up, I think one of the most important things that we have to face, and ESOF is doing this, and we scientists are doing every day, is to fight against the anti-science, anti-GMO, denial of climate change, anti-vaxxer, but even people that believes that the earth is flat. So, I mean, this is, I would call it an assault on democracy. So everybody should be aware of this. And if we just look at the creation of Adam and the Sistine Chapel, You see here, actually, I don't know, this is life, actually. This is when God gave life to Adam, and this is very well known. But life is knowledge, because this actually is the symbol of the brain. And with this idea, this is a basic idea of ESOF. We have to tell the people that without the knowledge, nothing positive will happen in the world. And this is, I always say this to politicians. They say, it costs a lot of money, we don't have money. But with COVID, we have resources, we will have resources. And I really hope that we invested in the right direction. The answer is, if you think education is expensive, you can try ignorance, and you will see that it's even more expensive.
So you touched upon already. So what do you think will be the impact of Corona crisis on these so-called green policies in Europe, but around the world? Because also already some countries are using or exploiting the situation of these green policies. I'm speaking now about the states within the European Union when it comes to European Union Green Deal. So they are using these new policies, green policies, actually quite in opposite to promote their interests and actually to promote their businesses and their industries and so on. So do you think that the Corona will have some kind of impact on these policies, and how could we promote that the Green Deal is actually the funds for the Green Deal are using for green policies and for better future?
I am an optimist. So my answer is yes. I really hope so, and I also see clear signals of raised consciousness in the people. Well, not in everyone, of course. But most people, when I meet people in the streets or in the virtual street, which is Facebook and social media, when I post something which is related to this, I see many comments, positive comments, which were not so 5 or 10 years ago. This is making me positive and optimistic about the future. On the other hand, European Commission is going in that direction with a lot of resistances, with a lot of debate, but at least they debate. If we go back 10 years ago, there was not such a debate at high politician level. Some politicians, some country, they change their mind, not all of them. Some big countries change their minds. Other will follow. I'm positive in this. And hopefully, I really hope also that COVID, people learn a lesson from COVID. That is what I said already before. We were not prepared for COVID. Definitely, this is evident. Somebody would perhaps believed or believes they were more prepared than others, but in the mean, we were not prepared. We didn't have a contingency plan at the European level, not even in some cases at the national level. We see that the dissemination of the virus is not stopped yet in Europe. Are we prepared for the perfect storm in 2030? I would say 10 years ago, we were not prepared. We are not prepared today too. We have some times. At least this is a positive thing, that we know that the perfect storm will arrive in 2030, perhaps a couple of years before, but we still have some time, not too much, to follow indications from scientists that states that 2.5 rise in temperature and average temperature is not affordable by this planet. And this is actually a number, and this is the truth. So I'm positive. The things has changed. People rise consciousness in this, and I really hope that we will see some. And this is the right moment to do it, because there's a lot of money available for investment now, and there will be even more in the next months. It is of paramount importance to invest this money wisely.
I'm just thinking about Central Europe, because what we experienced in Central Europe during the first wave of the coronavirus was that the people were quite pretty much following the recommendations which were broadcasted in the television or in the radio. So I'm thinking maybe it would be better to raise awareness about the climate change and global warming and about the ecological crisis in general in media. So I think maybe to strengthen the role of media and raise awareness about this issue in the media is the way how to directly communicate this issue to the citizens.
Yeah, this is actually something that will be done in ESOF. So I really hope that we are on the right track to tackle this problem, this big problem. We'll see what happens. The next 5 years are crucial, really.
And when we are speaking about media, when it comes to ESOF, are you cooperating only with local, let's say, or national Italian medias, or are you also in connection with other European medias? Or
we are engaged with the European media, and actually something that is very interesting is that one of the exhibitions that will that will be held during ESOF is called Both Ways, which is both live and digital, which allow visitors to discover artistic installation on show simultaneously in different countries, in Rijeka in Croatia, in Cluj-Napoca in Romania, in Bucharest, in Timișoara, in Belgrade, in Budapest, as well as an international robotics festival. So this will surely spread the idea of ESOF as a, let's say, Central European event, and I really look forward to it, of course.
And these all are the events you spoke about at the beginning of our discussion, right? Because you said there are some remote events already taking place in Europe.
Yeah, this is part of the Science in the City festival, so it's already there, and will start in a few days. Again, I'm not aware of all the details of the program, but please, if you have doubts, double check the website and you will find everything there.
Okay, so I think it remains to hope that people or the awareness about the issue of the climate change and global warming and the ecological crisis will increase, hopefully in near future, because already yesterday it was too late. And yeah, at this point, I would like to thank you very much, Maurizio, for joining us for our IDMonSite discussion. Thank you very much for your highly insightful analysis. And yeah, many thanks for the opportunity to have you here with us today.
It was my pleasure, and I really thank you very much for the invitation. And I say a big hello to everyone that has followed this long discussion. Well, ciao.
Many thanks also to our audience. I hope you enjoyed our discussion. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on our social media channels, and take care and see you next time.